So you don't need to know how to save seeds in order to sell seeds, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in today's video. But if you do know how to save seeds, then this is an extra bonus because it means your costs are lower, so your profits are higher, which means more money in your pocket. And that is a great thing to have. But the same as my other two videos, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. This is just a way for you to practically make money to help fund your gardening hobby. And so today I'm going to teach you everything that I've learned over the years while I've been selling seeds. The first time I ever did anything seed related was during COVID. I received a grant from the city in order to give away free seeds to residents to help them start a garden while we were stuck in lockdown. And I learned a ton of different things during that time. So I am going to teach you about that in this video, so that way you don't make the same mistakes that I did. And I've also sold seeds at markets before. And so all of this is firsthand knowledge that I've gained from selling my own seeds that I am going to teach to you. If you haven't seen it already, I posted two other videos. The first is how to sell seedlings to make some money, and the other one is just 5 side hustles on how you can make money. And so this is just a follow-up from that first video of the 5 side hustles to give you more information, because there's just so much to learn. And so this is going to be a masterclass on how to sell seeds, and it should answer all of your questions that you have if you're new to selling seeds or you've done it once and you want to gain some new knowledge. And so if you have any more questions after this video is over that I didn't answer, make sure to leave them in the comments below. Or if you found this helpful, just make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Bree from Urban Gardening Canada, and I garden in Ottawa Zone 5. This is a fun video for me to be making because I really enjoyed selling seeds and making some money, but I'll admit that this isn't my favorite way to make money. Selling seedlings is actually my preferred way to make a little bit of extra cash on the side. And so if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll link that one for you below. That is my preferred way to do it, but this is also another really good way. And so I've made this video and the seedling video because, in my opinion, those two are the ones that make you the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. And so that is why I wanted to expand on these videos and teach you guys how to do it, because this is the biggest bang for your buck. Hey guys, my lens decided to give me trouble today, so this video has a lot of me in and out of focus, which is so irritating, and I'm so sorry for it. So I hope you just use this video more as a podcast that you can listen to, because there's not a lot of imagery anyways, and otherwise I hope that you still get a ton of value out of it. And I'm sorry for the lack of focus. It sucks, but it's still a really good video, so I hope you keep watching it. Now, before I get any further into this video, I did want to give you a disclaimer, and that is that I want to make sure that you are protected in a couple different ways if you're going to choose to do this side hustle. The first one is to make sure to check all of your local laws to make sure that you are allowed to be selling seeds and you're allowed to be distributing seeds to other people. So whether that's your city, your municipality, province, state, county, whatever it is, or if you are going to be buying seeds in bulk, make sure that the company that you're buying from allows you to repackage and distribute them so you're not breaking any laws. And the second one is to make sure and do your due diligence if you need to have insurance. So specifically, I've needed insurance in the past to sell seeds at a Seedy Saturday or a market event. And so you do want to make sure that if you need insurance in order to be doing this, that you are checking and doing it right, because to me, it's very important that you are protecting yourself and you're not doing anything that could harm you in any way. Okay, so now that the boring stuff is over, let's get into everything you need in order to be selling these seeds so you can put some cash in your pocket and buy that thing that you've been eyeing, whether it's a houseplant, new tools, or whatever it is. So before I get into the actual seeds, the first thing that I want to talk about is knowing your buyers. And so this is important so that way you know exactly what varieties of seeds to either buy or to save in order to sell to people. And so the first thing that you want to know is, what type of seeds do your buyers want? So Do they like to have unique varieties that they can't get anywhere else? And this is very common in seasoned gardeners who've been gardening for a few years. Or are they beginner gardeners who are looking for that basic variety? So your most common red tomato, maybe some beans to be growing, or an herb here or there. So it really depends on who your buyer is and how long they've been gardening and what they're looking for. So the second thing is that you really need to know your product in order to sell to these buyers. So especially if you're selling unique varieties, one of the more difficult things if you choose to buy seeds to redistribute them is that if you've never grown them before, it's going to be really hard to sell these to people because you can't explain to them what the food tastes like, how it grows, or anything like that. So you do have to be mindful that if you're selling to a beginner gardener, they're going to ask you a lot of questions. So you really need to know your product. And so if you decide to buy seeds that are unique, at least know the definition that the website tells you in order to be able to grow them, or what they might have a flavor to taste like. And you're really going to need to know this variety in order to be selling them to your buyer. And the final thing is something that I found to be really odd and strange, is that when I'm selling to people at a market and I have a large crowd of people, there were way more people than I expected who would pick up my seed packets and feel around inside of it and then be like, well, how many seeds are in here? And so I honestly wasn't expecting that. I don't put the number of seeds on my seed packets since I'm just a one person filling these envelopes. A lot of times I'll take a teaspoon or a quarter teaspoon and I'll dig it out of the seed packet and place it into a new seed packet, especially if you have saved seeds, for example, like yarrow. The way that yarrow seeds get saved, there's just a ton that come out and you can't count them. So the best thing that you can do is scoop them into a seed packet, which means you have no idea how many seeds are in there, and you can't feel certain seeds either that are small. And I've had people come up and feel around and just be like, well, how many are in here? And so you have to have a general idea. So if you're counting the seeds, you want to make sure that you have a minimum of, I don't know, whatever your choice is, 10 seeds, 20 seeds, so you can answer that to them and say, well, every single seed packet here has a minimum of 10 seeds in it. But I do find it interesting because there are seed companies out there that you can buy from who will charge you $5 for a seed packet and honestly provide you 5 to 10 seeds. And so for me, I'll be selling seeds and the packet is $2, which is a fraction of a $5 seed packet, and they'll still ask me how many seeds are in my packet. And so these are the buyers that you might be getting when you sell your seeds. So you just have to be prepared to have the answers to any questions that they might be asking, from how it grows, what it looks like, what the flavor is, and how many seeds come in your seed packet. So once you determine the type of buyers you have, you'll have a better idea of the variety. Now, if you're saving your own seeds and you're choosing to only sell saved seeds, then it really doesn't matter who the buyer is, because your selection is going to be based off of what you have in your garden and what you know how to save seeds from. So this could just be flowers, it could be vegetables, it could be herbs, or a mix of all of them. It's really up to you and what you like to save seeds from, or what you even know how to save seeds from. And so if you're choosing to only sell saved seeds, this is a really interesting thing, because you get to sell seeds to people that were from your garden, which is such a beautiful experience, but also there's no cost involved with buying your seeds, so that way you get a higher profit. But if you don't know how to save seeds, or you don't have varieties that you want to be saving from, your other option is that you can buy your seeds in bulk and repackage them to sell to other people. And so a lot of seed companies are out there already do this. They buy their seeds in bulk from out of country and then repackage them into their specific branded envelopes and resell them to you. So it is something that is already being done in the industry. This is where my disclaimer comes in, where I just want to make sure that whoever you're buying from in bulk doesn't explicitly say that you can't repackage them for sale, because you don't want to be breaking any laws or having to worry about doing anything like that. So make sure that you are buying them from somewhere that you're allowed to repackage them. And the second thing is that you want to make sure that the quality of the seeds are good and that they have a good germination rate and it comes from a reputable seller, because the goal of this is that you want to have repeat customers. You want to be able to sell this year, have happy customers so you can sell again next year. If you make a lot of people mad by selling them crappy seeds, then they're not going to want to buy from you again and you get a bad reputation. And so it's just better to make sure that you either do a germination test on your homegrown saved seeds, or you know that wherever you're buying them from in bulk or wholesale is a reputable company. So in terms of saving your own seeds, this is a great one because you can get so many seeds from a single plant, and this means that there's just so much profit that you can get from them. And so there are some plants that are just really high yielding when it comes to producing seeds, and this could include dill and cilantro, broccoli, cauliflower, tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, peppers, all of them. One single fruit produces a ton of seeds. And so knowing your highest yielding plants means that you can save the most amount of seeds. Flowers in general produce tons of seeds. Marigolds, cosmos, echinacea, rudbeckia, they all produce tons and tons of seeds. And so once you learn how to save your own seeds, one, you never have to buy seeds again for your own garden, and two, you can package them up and sell them to people, or you can choose to give them away as well. It's really up to you, but this video is about how to sell them and make a little bit of money, so we're gonna stick to how to sell them and not the whole giveaway option here. And so the first thing is you really need to know how to save seeds. You don't want to save your seeds when they're not ripe or ready. You really want to make sure you understand exactly how to save seeds. So for example, if you have a dill plant that went to seed too early and you save those seeds, the future dill plants that come out of those seeds are also going to go to seed too early and they're not going to produce, and so they're not a good seed. Or if you save seeds from, say, a kale or a broccoli when the pods are still green and they haven't fully ripened, then those seeds aren't going to germinate. So again, that's the wrong time to do it. Or if you have a zucchini or cucumber that hasn't turned orange before you save the seeds, they're also not ripe. So it's really important that you understand exactly when to save and harvest the seeds in order to be able to sell them to people. And then beyond that, testing them out for germination is really important. So I know it feels sad to take away some of the seeds from your stockpile that you could be selling, but it's really important at any time of year to just be making sure that they are having a good germination rate. You don't need to have the percentage on your seed packet to understand like 90% germination rate. You don't need to do that, but just make sure that the seeds do germinate, because you don't want to be selling something that isn't going to grow at all. So for example, zinnias as a flower are really difficult to save seeds from. And so if you did decide to save seeds from them, I really recommend doing a germination test on those ones, because there are tons of seeds that can come off the flower head that aren't viable at all. And so if you're selling those, you might be selling a seed pack to someone where none of the seeds are going to germinate because they're not even viable seeds. So then you end up selling really just a bunch of garden cleanup is the best word that comes to my mind right now. So you really, really want to do that. But again, saving seeds means that you spend less money, and so all of the money that comes from selling them is profit for you. So the second option is to buy your seeds in bulk. And so again, as long as there is nothing on a disclaimer on the website telling you that you can't repackage them for resale, then you can go ahead and do this. And the cool thing about this is that bulk seeds are actually really, really affordable to buy. And so you can get thousands of seeds for $10 and repackage them into a $2 or $3 seed packet, so you make your money back really quickly. And whether you save seeds or you buy seeds in bulk, the work in order to repackage them is the same. So really the only difference is, do you put in the effort to save your own homegrown seeds? And do you like the idea of selling homegrown seeds, or do you want to buy them in bulk and repackage them and spend a little bit of money? But again, bulk seeds are really not too bad, but they do eat into your profit. So this is just whatever works best for you. So I did want to throw in this little bonus one in here as well. It's not technically a seed, but that's the idea of selling corms, tubers, or bulbs. So the cool thing about doing this is that a lot of bulbs, corms, or tubers replicate. And so this means that you can split them and sell them. So if you grow them in pots Or say, for example, if you grow dahlias or gladioli, they have to be dug up, even canna lilies, they have to be dug up every single winter, which means it gives you the opportunity to split them up. And so since they don't stay in the ground, this is a lot easier than say a daffodil. So daffodils replicate really quickly, but they stay in the ground and you don't dig them up over winter. So it does make it harder to do it with these ones, although it is still possible. But you can dig up your dahlias and split the tubers up and be able to sell those. You can do it with your gladioli or your canna lilies. The most important thing with this is to make sure that you know the variety that you're selling. So for me, I'm not a really big fan of dahlias, and so I don't usually know the variety that I have. So if I split it up, I can't really sell it. Plus I also just buy common varieties knowing that I'm going to kill the tuber. But I do love canna lilies, and so I have a really beautiful canna lily that technically I could split at some point and sell it because it's such a beautiful variegated variety. And so this is just another way that you can take perennials from your garden and make a little bit of extra cash. So if you're at a seed event or even online, you can be selling these tubers. And something like a dahlia, if you have a very highly sought after variety, those sell super quickly and they can make a decent amount of money for you if you're just splitting up the tuber. So next up is the supplies that you need, such as envelopes. But before we get into that, I did want to mention quickly that I have an online course called Adapt and Thrive Gardening in a Changing Climate. And this is a self-paced multimedia course that you can get online that teaches you how to garden in the face of climate change, and it comes with videos, lectures, and downloadable workbooks to help you build a stronger garden to face any of the wild weather that's coming your way this season. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put the link for it below, and let's get into the supplies. So this is where most of your cost is going to come from, and so it's important that you want to keep your costs as low as possible, because the lower your cost, the higher your profit. And so what I choose to do is use coin envelopes. They're the little orange envelopes. I'll grab one. So I use these coin envelopes here, and this is what I used the first time that I gave away seeds during COVID. And so this was the mistake that I made, was that I hand wrote everything on these envelopes. So I wrote the name of the plant, I wrote the variety, and then I wrote some basic growing instructions, so the days to maturity and how to grow it. And I thankfully had volunteers when I did that, so I was able to split the work, but it was not worth the effort. And so that was like my biggest mistake. And I didn't want to buy a stamp because this was just for fun that I was doing it. So I didn't really want to invest a lot of money in it beyond what I had already put in. And so this is when I learned my lesson to make my own labels. And so I've made my own labels here. And inside this label, I have the price on it, what it's called, whether it's an annual or a perennial. I like to put little information. So this is a straw flower, so it says great for drying. And then it has your typical instructions on how to plant it. So sow 6 weeks before last frost, sow it on the surface, they prefer full sun, and how tall they get. And so there's a lot more information that I could put on here, but I have, since they're really small envelopes, there's only so much information you can put on them. And so you really want to make sure that you plant accordingly. And the best way to make these labels, and the most affordable way, is to buy printing paper that is sticky. So these are the type of papers that UPS would use to put on their boxes. You can buy this off Amazon, it's really cheap. I'll put a little picture up on the screen of what the name of the product is. And so what I did was I just went into Microsoft Word and built a table and then filled in the information of each of the specific plants that I was growing. The hardest part about it was knowing what size to make these table charts. And so I did print it on some lined paper because that's the lowest value paper that I could think of, just to test out the size of them to make sure that I wasn't making my labels too small or too big for the envelope. And then I created this table, filled out all the information on there, and then I just printed it off. And then I have one of those guillotine type of cutters, but you could just use a pair of scissors, and then you just cut them up and you can stick them on the envelope. They're a little crooked. I tried my best to make them as straight as possible, but it really doesn't matter too much. I think the biggest thing that sucks about these labels is I don't have a picture of the plant on here. So if you don't know what a straw flower is, you don't really know what you're buying. But the coin envelopes are really affordable to buy. You can buy a ton of them. You can get them from Amazon, Uline, maybe the dollar store. And then this printer paper you can get off of Amazon, again, probably at a Staples or any other office supply store. If you're not Canadian, I think Staples is Canadian. And then you just have to scoop in your seeds and fill them up. And then of course you need a printer. This is another thing that if you can get the sizing right, you can also print it in color at your local office printing shop. But I just have an inkjet printer that prints really, really quickly. And so I was able to print it out on that paper in order to keep my costs down. So when it comes to making the seed packets, the most time consuming part is actually filling the seed packet. This takes forever to do. If you're counting seeds, such as a tomato seed or a pepper seed, you're one by one counting them. It really depends on how you want to do it, because a lot of seed companies will say sell you a pepper packet and it'll say there's 12 seeds in there, or a tomato packet might have 12 or 25 seeds. So it's up to you if you want to count them so you can say you have 25 seeds in an envelope, or if you just want to take a spoon and scoop it in. It really is up to you and how much you want to give away. If you're saving from seed, then using a spoon is the easiest option, because there isn't a value to your seeds the same way that if you buy them. So if you're saving the seeds, all of the cost that went into it was you and your labor saving those seeds and then putting them into a seed packet. And otherwise, if you're buying seeds, then there is a cost that's involved. So say you bought 1,000 seeds for $10, then there is a value per seed. And so it's up to you on if you want to count and put 10 seeds into 100 seed packets in order to make $200 at selling them at $2 a packet, or if you don't care because you only spent $10 and as long as you make back your $10, you're happy with it. So it's really up to you and how much money you're hoping to make from a profit perspective on whether you're counting your seeds or you're just going to scoop them into your envelope. What I would suggest though is that if you're going to use something like a 1/4 teaspoon in order to scoop seeds, is that, say for example, pepper seeds are slightly larger, take a 1/4 teaspoon, scoop out your pepper seeds onto a plate or just onto the table and count how many seeds are going to be going into the seed packet. Because if there's 20 to 30 seeds in there, you are going to get someone who asks you how many seeds are in there. So you can say that there's approximately 30 seeds in the packet. So this way you can both, one, price your seed packet accordingly, and two, be able to answer that question when somebody asks you how many seeds are in there. So once you have your envelopes and your labels and you fill them up, you now have a product to be selling. And so this is when it comes up to pricing your product. So when it comes to pricing, you have a couple options. You can either try and be competitive with other companies in your area and what they sell them for. You can choose to price them lower just because you want to make a few dollars on the side, but you also really want to give access to people and seeds. Or you can price them based off of how many seeds are in the seed packet. So say a seed company sells their peppers for $2 and they give 10 seeds out. If you are selling 30 seeds in your seed packet, you can price it a little bit higher. The only thing with that is that you will have to explain yourself to people, because they will say, well, I can go to the dollar store and buy a seed packet for 75 cents. And then you'll have to let them know that, sure, you can buy a seed pack for 75 cents, but A, the quality and germination rate might not be there, and B, they only offer you 10 seeds and I'm offering you 30 seeds for $2, so really I'm the better deal. So it really just depends on what you are looking to do and what your end goal is and how much effort you want to put into convincing someone that your seed price is a good price. So once you set your price, you need to find somewhere to sell your seeds. And so with the online world now, it's a little bit easier to be able to sell your seeds. It's just about getting noticed. So you can sell them on Facebook if there's a marketplace, or if you have a local gardening group in your area, you can post about your seeds there. Also, Etsy is another place that a lot of people are selling their seeds. And then finally, you can also sell them on at an event like a Seedy Saturday or any type of seed event that happens in the springtime. If you sell them online, it's a little bit easier for you because you can just post what you have, including photos of what that plant looks like, so people are able to take orders, and then you can either mail them through standard mail, which really isn't that expensive. But I would also make sure that you charge people, if you're gonna put it in a standard mail and it's $1 for stamp, make sure you charge people for that $1, because even though it seems like a small amount, it just makes sense. Everybody has to pay for shipping some way or another. So get that cost covered for you. So if you sell them on Facebook Marketplace or Etsy, then you put your product up online and people will find you and they will buy from you. But you can also go to an event. And so this is where you have a ton of people who come to these events specifically to buy seeds. And so this is a great place for you to get visibility and have a high volume of seeds being sold. There's a couple things that you need to be aware of if you're gonna choose to do an event. The first one is that if you are at a seed event with other larger seed vendors, you have to understand that they are well-known seed vendors, and so people are coming to shop at them. So they're gonna have a really long lineup of people interested in buying their seeds, and you might be a little less busy. So you do have to be prepared to either have a really good marketing on your table, to have really good varieties, or to have really good prices, because you wanna be competitive with those larger seed vendors. The second thing is that if you don't have pictures on your envelopes the way that I don't, you wanna have some kind of brochure, booklet, digital tablet, whatever it is that has pictures of those specific seeds that you're selling, so that way you can point them out to people. So you can say, well, this is the variety, this is what it looks like, this is what it tastes like, and they can look at that specific picture and decide if it's right for them. If you are selling at an event and you have something like a 6-foot table, you do want to have double of that so you can have it on both sides of your table. That way people can wait in line on one side while look at the brochure on the other side, so that way they know what they're buying. And that's specifically if you choose not to put a picture on your seed label. If you do decide to put a picture on your seed label, it's a little bit easier, but you will need a color printer. And so if you don't own one, there is an extra cost to going out and professionally printing off these colored labels. And again, if you are selling at an event, you might need insurance. And so you do have to pay for the cost of your table space plus your insurance, which means there's a cost involved with that. So the most important thing is to make sure that you're bringing enough product, and that based off the amount of product that you have and the price that you're setting, that if you sold all of your items or just sold a few items, that you can break even, because you really don't want to go to one of these seed events, not sell enough to break even, or to spend a ton of time prepping for it, and then you don't break even and you don't make any money. For me, the first time I ever went to a seed event, I put in way too much effort. I didn't know what I was doing, and so I brought all kinds of products. I made peat-free seed soil, which I thought was going to be really popular, but right here in Canada, peat and peat-free stuff isn't that popular, so we spent a lot of time really trying to describe the product to people, which was a waste of time. And the other thing I tried to do was to sell these mason jars with seeds, curated seeds in them, so that way you can make pickles or pickled beans or salsa, where you got the jar plus all of the seeds to grow what goes in there. And that didn't go very well either. And I spent so much time prepping the soil and packaging the soil and making these curated seed packets when people really just wanted to come there, buy a seed packet and leave. So it was a big mistake on my end that I spent tons of hours prepping on, versus this time around when I go in a couple weeks, I'm literally just gonna put my seeds in a bucket, and you can buy them or you don't, and I'm not gonna do a lot of time and effort on them. And I'm also going to be selling seeds that are older. They're not fresh from this past season. And so I am going to reduce the price on them, because although I store my seeds well, they do lose a little bit of germination rate. And so I am going to price them a little bit lower as a bargain, or like a sellout thing, so that I can bring more people to my table, and then people are going to want to buy my seeds from me, so that way I can sell as much as I can. So there are some different ideas that you can do for marketing and ways to bring people to your table. And overall, people at seed events are really a mixed bag. There's both your seasoned grower who's looking for cool new varieties, but there's also your beginner gardener. And some people even come with a list of what they're looking for. So they'll come up and they'll be like, do you have green zucchini. And so you'll just want to be prepared that you have quite a range of people, but still choose what you want to sell and what you think is going to be valuable in your specific area and focus on that as a way to market yourself. So the main goal, whether you sell on Etsy, Facebook, at an event, the main goal is to get recurring customers. And so this is where it comes back to the same thing. You want to be a nice person who has a good sales tactics or good sales persona and good quality seeds, because you really want recurring customers. So that way, if you choose to sell again next year, people either come to an event and look for you, or they go online and look for you, or they just contact you privately however they can and say that they want to buy more seeds from you. So in order to be sustainable and make a few $100s every single year, just make sure that you take care of your customer and you provide them a good quality product. So going back to selling at a market, there's a few other things that you need to plan for. And so the first one is how you plan to display your seed packets. So a lot of big vendors have huge racks that spin around and people can walk around and look at them, or they have a display case where they're all lined up. And so that's the first thing that you need to figure out, is how you're going to display your seed packets. I was looking for the cheapest way possible because I don't sell seeds as a seed vendor. I sell seeds as a way to just market my business, because of course I'm an online education business, and so I want to get my name out there, and so I sell seeds just as a way to market my business. And so I choose to keep my costs down because I don't intend to become a seed company in the future. And so I just bought these display units that are for nail polish. And so normally, I guess you would be working at a salon and you'd have your nail polish lined up on these display cases. And I just put my seeds into that. The only problem with that is that the amount of seeds that I had versus the space I had mean they were all turned on their side. So everybody had to come and read the seed packets like this, which isn't great for the customer experience. So I do plan on fixing that for this year by having less varieties in the cases and then just buckets that are labeled in front of it that'll say like flowers or just cosmos. Another thing is that you need to know your seeds, because people are going to ask questions. What color are they? What do they look like? How tall do they grow? How do they taste? So being familiar with all of the seeds that you're selling and being able to answer the questions is very valuable, especially if you want to be selling your seeds. You want to be able to know enough about the seeds that you can passionately talk about them in order to convince someone, especially if they don't know what something is. You can say, oh, I see you're looking at cosmos. Well, can I interest you in some straw flowers? They're really amazing in addition to cosmos, and they grow similar and have similar colors, but they have these properties about them that you can keep them in a vase or they can dry out. And so you can sell people on things that they didn't even know they wanted. So by knowing your seed varieties, you can do this. The next thing is that you need to know what you're going to do with your seeds when you're done. So you're not going to sell out unless you bring a small amount of seeds with you to these markets. You're not going to sell out. So the question is, what are you going to do with your seed packets after? Are you going to try and sell them online? Are you going to donate them to a library or to a food bank? Are you going to save them for next year to sell them again? You really have to come up with what's your plan if you don't manage to sell all of your seeds, because otherwise you're hoarding piles and piles of seeds and they can go to waste, which is not beneficial, especially if they can go to someone else. And so the final thing, whether you're selling at a market, on Etsy, or wherever, is figuring out how to take payment. And so if you're doing it over Facebook or you're at a market, you can of course always take cash. So this is the easiest option to do. The second one is to take e-transfer or Venmo in the US. And so e-transfer is one of my least favorite. E-transfer is good if you have someone buying online from you, because they have time to be at home to set up your email address. And if there's a password or whatever it is, they have time to set all of that stuff up. But if you're at a market or an event, e-transfer is the worst option ever, because people are standing there trying to set you up in their bank and typing in your email wrong, and it's just really slow and you have to cater to them while you have other customers. I don't know much about Venmo, but it might be faster and easier for that option if that's for you. But otherwise, for me, cash is obviously always king. But if you're taking cash, make sure that you bring a huge amount of float. You'll be surprised how fast you go through your float, and you really want to have a mix mostly coins. I guess in America you guys use dollar bills. So low value denominations is what you want to be using. And so someone might buy a $2 item and hand you a $20 bill. It's the worst, but it can happen, and you don't want to turn anyone down from buying products from you, which means you have to have a good amount of float. And so I find having a lot of change is important because of the value of these seed packets is $2, $3, $2.50. So if you are pricing your seeds with coin at the end of it, so $2.50, you better have a lot of quarters with you or dollars that you can either upsell someone to a flat number, or you have those quarters with you. Otherwise, skip to flat numbers like $2, $3, $4, because that means less change that you have to give back. But a lot of times people will try and break a big dollar bill for a small purchase, and then that could use up a ton of your float. So you really do have to be prepared for that, because you don't want to pay someone back in change of a bunch of dimes. You're like, here's $4 in dimes back. And so planning on the cash that you have with you to give to people is really important. And then for me, my most preferred option is to have a square terminal, especially at events. If you're selling to your neighborhood, then you don't really need that, because nobody thinks that they have to pay you with a card like your Visa, MasterCard, or whatever. But if you're at a market, these square terminals are the best thing ever. They're a really small investment, only like $50, and you can make that money back fairly quickly. And especially if you're one of the few people who accepts credit card at a market, this means that you can either upsell people to buy more from you, or if they say, oh, well, I've spent all my money, you could be like, don't worry, I take credit card, and you're able to upsell people to buy from you. And so just make sure that if you are at a market that you have a really good signage up so people know that they can pay with credit cards, so that way you can make those sales. And it's really simple to use it on your phone, and it has tab and insert for people to do their PIN. And so I really recommend, if you plan on doing markets for selling seeds and then selling seedlings or anything else like that, I really recommend just investing in a square terminal. And so one final thing when it comes to events is that a lot of times the vendor application opens up 3 months in advance. It could be sooner, it could be later. And so if you do plan to sell seeds at an event, make sure you know which events you want to sell at, and you're on top of when the vendor application opens up. Not all of these places sell out. I just had a fellow person online say that they're always looking for vendors at their seed event, versus here in Ottawa, there was a wait list for vendors. And so it really just depends on where you live. But you do want to stay on top of that. It's better to be early than to be late for getting your application in. And so that covers everything that I wanted to teach you about selling seeds for some money. Again, this will make you a few $100s a season. It's not going to make you rich, but it is definitely going to help pay for some of your supplies, your soil for the garden season, whatever it is that you want to use the cash for. It's definitely going to give you a couple $100 in your pocket. And so if you do have any questions that I didn't answer, just leave them in the comment section below and I will answer them for you. But otherwise, if you liked today's video and you found it helpful, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification button, and check out this video here. Bye.